Hi, and welcome back to the training. In the previous video, I talked about the lone wolf syndrome and how that is mistake number 3 and something you definitely want to avoid. And I gave you tips on how to do that. So if you haven't listened or watched the video, go ahead and check that out first. And now we're going to talk about the number 2 mistake that could be keeping you overstressed, overwhelmed, and doing a lot more work than you actually need to. And I call this the cart before the horse. So you may have heard that term before, and you might have an idea what it means. In this context, it means where you start to learn, gather information, or start implementing things out of order. So think about when you're baking and you have a recipe and you are working hard on a pie or a cake or something that's taking a long time, and you get it all done and you go to put it into the oven and you forgot to even turn the oven on. Then you have to wait maybe another 10 to 15 minutes before the oven's warmed up, and you're wasting time. And perhaps your cake or whatever you're baking didn't need that extra time to sit. And another example is if you're one of those moms who's buying main lesson books and you have a 3-year-old. So I'm going to talk about this and why it's important to avoid this mistake. Well, the first reason is what I said before. It's wasting time, energy, and money. You're purchasing things you don't need. You may be purchasing books and curriculum that are well beyond where you really are at this time, and you're wasting so much time and energy looking, searching, gathering, which isn't really moving you forward in any way. It's just this constant, sort of like a dog chasing its tail. It's a lot of movement, but you're not actually getting anywhere. It also really adds to the confusion. So if you're just coming into this and you're starting to see some of the things that you need to get in place, by gathering more and more and more, you suddenly end up with this desk full of books and papers and blog posts, and you don't know what to do or where to start, and it can seem like this is way too much. And you may even tend to say, you know what, I really don't think this is going to work for me. I need something a lot more simple. I need something, I can just open the book and go. Because you start to drown in the information, and it starts piling things up into your mind and sort of murkying the waters. You need to be able to be following something step by step and progress. Here's where I am, here's where I need to go, and not let all those other things that could be far out into the future, muck it up for you. So you need a clear, concise way. So sort of put the blinders on to some of those other things and really keep your focus. Putting the cart before the horse can also create a shaky foundation, meaning you haven't kind of gone through the motions of building on the concepts, starting here, moving to the next, moving to the next, moving to the next. You may be up here and over here and out here and over here. And so you've got little bits and pieces of everything that you've kind of glued together into this sort of shaky thing. And so it's not a very strong foundation that you're kind of coming into this with, because you're just grabbing things from here and sort of piecemealing it together. And that could cause things to not be as strong, or for you not to be as sure and confident in what you're doing and really understanding the concepts and the ideas and the actual things that you need to do. You may be like, oh, this looks good, this looks good. And instead, it's causing a rocky foundation. And the last reason it's so important not to put the cart before the horse is that it doesn't always make sense if you go out of order. Think of a first grader. He may be able to read the 6th grade book, but it's not probably making a whole lot of sense to him. So just because we can go on and do something doesn't mean that we necessarily need to skip to that, because we could be doing it halfway because we're not understanding, again, these concepts and ideas behind it. So we're only getting a piece instead of that full Waldorf magic that I so want for you. So these are the main reasons why it's really important not to put the cart before the horse. Now let me give you some tips and ideas on ways you can make this work for you right now. All right, the first thing that I have most of my clients do when I'm working with them, guiding them through setting up their homeschool, is to ask the question, where am I right now and what is my next step? So I want you to just take a moment, close your eyes and think, what is the next step for me? What is the next step that you need to do? So you may or may not know what that is, and that's fine, but I want you to kind of think of it in this way. So if you have a 4-year-old who is just getting ready to kind of go into kindergarten in the upcoming year, then spending time looking at 2nd and 3rd grade curriculum is probably not the best use of your time. Also, looking at handwork and recorder and things like that that don't come into play into 1st grade may be something else that's a little bit out of order. So when we think about it, for a 4-year-old, needs kindergarten-based stuff. And it's always good to look a little bit ahead, so I'm not saying for you never to look ahead, but I don't want you to look so far ahead that you get out of proportion and start to get more overwhelmed. The whole point of this is to keep you clear, to keep you focused, and to make it fun and joyful for you. So just find and gather what you need at this particular stage in your child's development, the kindergarten, the preschool, perhaps it's 1st grade. Let's look at 1st grade and get that stuff done. And when you've got 1st grade done, you can start to look ahead to 2nd grade just so you can kind of see, but let's get the 1st grade going first. I hope that makes sense. So where are you right now, and what would be your very next step? What is it that you need? Maybe you're starting right at the very beginning and you just need to get your home set up, or you just need to get your rhythm set up. So there are things that need to be put in place in a particular order, and I want you to make sure that you don't skip the order, because again, it can really not make a lot of sense. Another thing you can look at is, what do you need to work on or polish right now as your child's teacher? So that's another thing where moms get kind of, again, before the cart before the horse. You may want to start modeling and really getting into some more advanced handwork or painting techniques. If you're just brand new and have never done any of these artistic skills, like using block crayons, chalkboard drawings, and wet painting, then for you, you need to start at the beginning. So find an easy tutorial, something simple, an easy painting, an easy, very, very simple picture to draw with the block crayons. You don't need to watch a tutorial that shows you how to do this amazing chalkboard drawing that even if you were an artist, you wouldn't be able to figure it out. Start with something simple and polish the skills you have, but start from where you are and then begin working on that. If you don't know how to knit, crochet, do embroidery, or any of those things, look in the Waldorf curriculum and see what's first. Finger knitting. So perhaps you don't even know how to do that. So start with finger knitting. Get your finger knitting going, and then look ahead to the very first skill you'll need, which would be knitting. So don't jump into crocheting and handwork with needle felting and all of that. Look and see what actually needs to be done, because otherwise, again, you're putting more on yourself than you need to. Polish your skills, start from where you are and work up to it slowly. We don't become artists overnight. We don't become master handwork teachers overnight. It's done, gradually as we go. So start from where you are and start polishing your skills in a thoughtful way that makes sense without putting extra pressure on yourself. And the last way that this can be applied, you may be thinking, well, what if I don't know my next step? I'm just brand new and I have no idea. And this was sort of the first mistake comes in doing the lone wolf syndrome, is having someone you can ask. So if you have a Waldorf buddy or a friend or someone, maybe it's even an online group, you can go and try to find the information, ask them to find out what your next step is, because sometimes it is, you may be like, I don't even know where I need to start. And that's totally normal. So that's why there's support and guidance out there for you. So ask someone, I'm thinking about doing this. Is this the best, use of my time, or is there something else that I really need to get in place first that will fall on that path of following something in a sequence? All right. I hope this helps you, and I'll see you on the next training where we'll tackle the #1 mistake and how you can avoid doing it. Until then, bye-bye.